Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him.
Tonight, our new reporting why some advisors and donors to Donald Trump question the former president's political focus.
When unions are strong, America's strong.
The competition for working class voters as the nominees promise to unveil their economic agendas for America.
No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and saying there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago.
Plus, new details about marquee speakers at the Democratic Convention next week in Chicago. The CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in for Nora. Donald Trump is working to grab attention back from Kamala Harris. He will hold 2 campaign stops in battleground states later this week after failing to land any significant rhetorical punches against Harris during a rambling 2-hour interview with Elon Musk. What listeners did get was a 40-minute technical delay and an earful of talking points from the former president on immigration, foreign dictators, and the economy. Meanwhile, Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz is on the trail solo for the first time, pushing for union votes while defending his military record. CBS's Robert Costa has new reporting on how Trump allies want him to take on the Harris-Walz ticket.
Former President Donald Trump is now using one of his favorite tools, social media, to pull the political spotlight back his way. And he kicked off the effort with an online chat with billionaire Elon Musk.
I think you should support Donald Trump for president.
Well, I want to thank you.
The 2-hour dialogue with Musk was delayed by technical difficulties.
You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind.
Trump's allies say he recognizes the impact of being on X, especially as he looks to energize his core supporters who have been following his social postings since he rose to the presidency in 2016. But there is no guarantee an X exchange will provide a political boost. Sources close to the Trump campaign tell CBS News that privately, some aides and donors are increasingly on edge about Trump's ability to adapt to the new dynamics since President Biden exited the race.
Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him. Both sides. Yeah. That was a hard thing to do. Unification.
And some Trump associates are voicing frustration that more needs to be done to better define Vice President Kamala Harris as a liberal. And sources say some confidants have urged him to concentrate on policy attacks, not personal ones. Whether that happens remains to be seen as Trump is ramping up his campaign schedule, with a rally Wednesday in Asheville, North Carolina, slated to focus on the economy, before rallying supporters on Saturday in northeastern Pennsylvania, 2 days before the Democratic National Convention. Harris, meanwhile, is scheduled to unveil her economic agenda this Friday in North Carolina. And today, her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, defended his military record.
I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country.
And there is a new standoff with political implications. The United Auto Workers has filed federal label charges against Elon Musk and former President Trump after they spoke about striking workers last night. UAW leader Shawn Fain just told me their remarks were intimidating. The Trump campaign has called the suit a political stunt. Major?
Robert, we also have some new details on key speakers, at least initially, announced for the Democratic National Convention.
President Biden will have his big moment on Monday evening. So will former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, followed Tuesday by former President Barack Obama. Former President Bill Clinton will also be in Chicago. Then the big ones, Governor Walz and Vice President Harris.
Robert Costa, thanks so very much. And we will have full coverage of the Democratic Convention right here and on CBS News streaming. Tonight, Tropical Storm Ernesto is gaining strength as it barrels across the Caribbean toward Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. A hurricane watch has been issued, with strong winds and a half foot of rain or more possible. Chief Meteorologist Bill Kelly from CBS News Philadelphia is tracking all of this. Bill, pleasant good evening to you.
Yeah, Major, good evening. Last night at this time, Ernesto had just formed. Tonight, it's now a strong tropical storm, as you mentioned, set to become a hurricane late tonight, really over the next couple of hours. It's going to pass just to the northeast of Puerto Rico, and the biggest threat there is going to be between 5 to 10 inches of rain, some pockets getting even a little bit more than that, and of course that's going to cause major flash flooding. Then the focus goes to the north, and we're talking about Bermuda on Saturday. This could potentially be a direct hit, Category 2, maybe Category 3 storm with those winds up to 110 miles per hour or so. So we're going to watch it very closely. And up and down the eastern seaboard, the biggest threat is going to be the rough seas, the wave heights, and of course the rip current threat. The biggest thing I can tell you, if you go down to the beaches, mind the signs. If you happen to get caught in a rip current, remember, you don't want to swim toward the shore. You want to swim to the side, get out of it, and then let the waves take you right back in. Major.
Very good advice. Bill Kelly, thanks so much. Tonight, Israel is bracing for what appears to be an imminent attack from Iran or its proxies, as hopes for a ceasefire deal hit yet another roadblock. CBS's Ramy Inocencio is in Tel Aviv.
Major, good evening. Hamas has informed the mediators it will not attend ceasefire talks this Thursday, but it has also said it is willing to meet with mediators after Thursday's talks. That is if Israel gives what they call a serious response, and that's according to a diplomat briefed on the talks. Israel early said it would attend. Hamas is now accusing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of not acting in good faith and of wanting to both prolong and expand the war. Leaders of Western countries, including the U.S., the U.K., Germany, France, and even the Vatican, had been trying to talk Iran down from retaliating against Israel, but Tehran said retribution is a right to stop more Israeli aggression. Hezbollah, its proxy to the north in Lebanon, could time its own revenge with Iran's strike. But both blame Israel for the assassinations of top leaders 2 weeks ago. If they do attack, a former Israeli prime minister told us the military would launch counterattacks, which could drag the whole region into all-out war, pulling in Mideast and Western countries. Major, Hamas not attending ceasefire talks in Qatar could be the trigger for Iran and Hezbollah, either or both, to now strike Israel.
Either or both. Ramy Inocencio, thank you so much. Russian forces pounded a region in eastern Ukraine today while Ukrainian troops held down a large area of Russian territory they seized in a surprise offensive. Ukraine says it now controls more than 70 Russian towns and villages across almost 400 square miles of terrain. That's an area about as large as Dallas. Here is CBS's Holly Williams.
It's the biggest foreign incursion into Russia since World War II. And for Vladimir Putin and the Russian army, it's a humiliation. Russian soldiers taken captive in their own country, a former superpower, and driven blindfolded into Ukraine. More than 2 years after Putin ordered his military to invade Ukraine, a war that's killed at least tens of thousands and perhaps many more, Ukraine says it now controls nearly 400 square miles of Russian territory. The Ukrainian soldiers launched their surprise attack a week ago, and Moscow claims it's now repelling their advance. But it's Russians evacuating their homes, more than 100,000 of them, some now forced to live in tents. Let them feel what we feel, said this Ukrainian man who lives near the border. Let them live in our skin. Throughout this war, Ukraine has launched aerial attacks on Russia, while armed Russian exile groups have used Ukraine as a base for their assaults. But this is the first time Ukrainian forces have gone on the counterattack inside Russia on this scale. For the Ukrainians, it's leverage. Russia's occupying around 20% of their country, and they want it back. Russia needs to be forced into peace, said Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Russia brought war to others, and now it's coming back home. Holly Williams, CBS News, London.
A police officer is facing murder charges a year after he shot and killed a 21-year-old pregnant black mother who was suspected of shoplifting. A grand jury indicted the officer today for firing a single shot through the woman's windshield as she tried to drive away. CBS's Tom Hansen has the report and the body camera video.
Out of the car. They said your stole stuff, do not leave.
Body camera video shows Glendon Township police officer Connor Grubb approach Takaya Young in her car outside an Ohio grocery store last year. Another officer orders her to get out.
Get out of the Get out of the car.
Instead, the 21-year-old rolled forward toward Grubb, who fired a single bullet through her windshield into her chest. Today, a grand jury announced Grubb is being charged with multiple counts of murder, involuntary manslaughter, and felonious assault.
We're not passing any judgment on whether Officer Grubb acted properly. We haven't seen the evidence.
Before the shooting, surveillance cameras recorded Young inside the store where police suspected she stole bottles of alcohol. Young was at least 25 weeks pregnant at the time of the shooting. The daughter she was expecting also died.
He didn't never have to pull that gun on her, ever. It wasn't called for.
Today, Young's grandmother called Grubb a bully with a badge.
I wanted to see Connor Grubb pay for what he did because it was wrong. It was wrong for him to take her and her baby out of here like he did.
And the county police chief says the department is taking disciplinary action. CBS News reached out to Officer Grubbs' attorneys. They tell us he is waiting in county jail until his arraignment tomorrow, where he is expected to plead not guilty. Major.
Tom Hansen, thank you. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden visited New Orleans today, promoting the so-called Cancer Moonshot program the president created following the death of his son, Beau, from cancer. The president announced $150 million in new cancer research funding for 8 research teams across the country, including one from Tulane University, where this event was held.
We believe anything's possible in America. There's nothing beyond our capacity when we work together.
The president has set a goal of cutting the number of American cancer deaths in half by the year 2047. Important news tonight for parents who allow their toddlers to use iPads or another kind of tablet. A new study finds too much tablet time could have unintended and harmful consequences. Here's CBS's Janet Shamlian.
Farrah Butler is a busy Atlanta mom who occasionally lets 3-year-old Oliver play on an iPad.
When I need a break, mainly in the mornings when I'm trying to unload the dishwasher, and in the afternoons when I'm trying to cook dinner.
Do you try to limit screen time with Oliver on the iPad?
Of course, I try, yes, as best as I can.
It's hard.
It is hard, especially when you're a mom and you just need a few minutes of a break.
Some say moms and dads are using tablets as a digital pacifier to soothe children as they cope with parenting challenges. But at what cost? A new study finds preschool-age children logging 75 minutes or more of daily screen time displayed more anger and frustration as they got older and had trouble regulating emotions, which often resulted in parents giving them even more screen time by age 5. The author of the study, Carolyn Fitzpatrick, says she conducted it during the pandemic.
So it might allow parents to immediately avoid a temper tantrum. But in the long term, repeated use of this kind of strategy does not allow children to develop strong internal emotion regulation skills.
What's his reaction when you take the iPad away?
He is not happy. He is not a fan of getting the pad taken away at all.
Butler, who has 3 children, says she and her husband briefly took tablets away from their kids and may do it more often.
We saw their behavior improve all around, and they didn't really seem to mind too much. They found other things to do with their time. So all in all, it was a positive experience.
So how much screen time should a young child get? Well, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends for preschool children 2 and up only up to an hour a day, and it should be educational in nature. Major?
Janet Shamlian, thank you. The search is on for a dangerous fugitive who made a daring escape today. And how did these 2 toddlers end up in the middle of a highway wearing only diapers? Those stories and more next. A $25,000 reward is being offered for information that leads to the capture of a convicted killer who escaped from a prison van this morning at a hospital in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Officials say the prisoner broke free of his leg restraints and ran, still handcuffed, into the woods. People who live within 2 miles of the hospital are being warned to keep their doors, windows, and cars locked. Police in Texas are investigating a frightening highway crash that ended with 2 toddlers in the road wearing nothing but diapers. Officials in the coastal city of Freeport say it appears the children were thrown from a Jeep that flipped multiple times. Remarkably, there were no serious injuries. Eye on America is next with a math problem facing the Catholic Church and a possible solution. In tonight's Eye on America, we are looking at a growing problem for the Catholic Church and a new approach to tackle it. The average parish has gotten larger while the number of priests has declined. Here's Mark Strassman with the big idea of one parish in California.
For Catholics in Central California, bigger means better.
God the Father is keeping us.
And St. Charles Borromeo Church feels heaven sent. Bishop Joseph Brennan leads the Diocese of Fresno.
This is a Catholic megachurch.
The biggest Catholic parish church in North America, St. Charles cost $21 million to build, seats 3,200, and sprawls over nearly an acre.
Are you still struck by the scale of this place?
Very much so.
Father Alex Chavez.
As big as this place is, could you have made it even bigger?
Yes, but there's room for growth, right? I could always add masses.
But what's too small? The number of priests throughout the Catholic Church, a labor crisis decades in the making.
Like this sanctuary, the U.S. Catholic Church's manpower challenge is enormous. Over a half century, the average size of a parish increased by 60%, while the number of priests dropped by 40%.
Oh, it's huge, and it's really across the board.
Why is this shortage what it is?
It's complicated, but there are all kinds of issues.
Among them, inadequate recruiting of young men, societal issues including materialism and career success, family issues such as broken homes, and the legacy of the church's sex abuse scandals. We watched the Fresno Diocese ordain 6 new priests, their most since 1968. Bishop Brennan says he could use 25.
We're responding to a very real need. So Jesus would walk through the door and say, well, it's not what I had in mind, but way to go, guys. It's a creative approach.
I asked 3 of those newly ordained priests, Herman Cabrera, Jimmy Milan, and Joseph Kling, why so few men today hear the call that they did.
I think nowadays, especially for my generation, commitment's a strong word.
And you've heard that they need priests. Was that an added imperative to become one yourself?
I mean, so yeah, I would say it was definitely part of my discernment. And so I think we all come into this knowing that the priesthood has a certain image.
What were you talking about in particular?
I mean, I've had people call me pedophile just for wanting to be a priest. And there's wounds, there's scars, because that's a horrible thing.
So you see this turning around?
I have hope, yeah,
I believe
absolutely.
So too.
Until it does, this megachurch merges 4 parishes into one behemoth. At 3 Sunday Masses, 8,000 parishioners in total fill the pews.
Do you see this megachurch solution as a prototype?
Most definitely. Yeah, being here now 1 year. Yeah, very much so.
Consider St. Charles a new testament to the power of what's mighty. For Eye on America, Mark Strassman in Visalia, California.
We celebrate a special retirement ceremony of a K-9 police officer after years of dedicated service. That is next.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect the stuff you love with Renters Insurance. Visit progressive.com.
Finally, tonight's Heart of America, a retired police K-9 about to embark on an important new assignment.
K-9 Indy, you are 1042 for the final time.
Earlier this year, K-9 Indy retired from the police department in Trophy Club, Texas. His partner, Police Sergeant Barry Sullivan, fought back tears as a dispatcher listed Indy's many accomplishments in this dash cam video that has since gone viral. The German Shepherd helped seize more than 4 pounds of fentanyl, apprehend 44 criminals, and found more than $300,000 of drug money. Sullivan says Indy has settled nicely into retirement, stealing meatballs off the kitchen table, but he's about to be busy again.
My wife and I are expecting in September, so he's gone from community protector, from chasing bad guys and finding drugs, to being our home protector.
K-9 Indy and Sergeant Barry Sullivan, tonight's Heart of America. And that is tonight's CBS Evening News. For Nora O'Donnell, I'm Major Garrett. Good night.